From MTN News, you're watching Montana This Morning.
How many more doses of the COVID-19 vaccine does the Gallatin County Health Department have left? I'm Annie Johnson, and coming up, I'll have that answer for you.
Butte's Board of Health will review the city's COVID-19 restriction policy. I'll tell you what that means to small businesses coming up.
Well, the Bozeman Streets Department getting prepped up when it hears snow is on the way, which of course is in our forecast. We'll chat with Matt about that in a minute. Superintendent John Vandelinder says there's no new approach. This season's milder winter has created some new problems. Even with less snow to plow, crews have had to keep the roads safe and clear for drivers and bicyclists.
And this ice is just like glacier ice. We don't have any equipment that will cut it. We could sand it, but if we sanded every street, we'd spend all summer sweeping that sand back up.
Now, Vandelinder says that crews are always ready, sometimes head out to start plowing as early as 3 o'clock in the morning. We can attest to that here at Montana.
I was going to say, yeah, I'm familiar.
Meantime, Marmota Monax.
What?
Yeah, he saw a shadow.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, that is the common groundhog, by the way, in the Sciuridae family.
You scared me. I was like, what are you talking about?
There are actually 14 species of groundhog in the world. None of them know a fraction about weather as much as you do.
I don't know. Those animals are pretty perceptive, but hey, maybe you knew there were 6 more weeks of winter.
I don't think anybody's ever said that about a groundhog before. How perceptive of you.
I'm being nice.
Yeah, I know
it's
you
a
are.
groundhog state.
I know.
Temperatures into the teens and 20s this morning. A pleasant start, but we are looking at snow developing more toward the evening. So I think early tomorrow morning is going to be more of an impact for us. Those crews may have to start a little earlier than 2 or 3, though, as we're dealing with snow and ice on the area roadways by early tomorrow morning. Don't confuse that with the afternoon today. Daytime highs into the 40s. We're going to break it all down for you coming up in just a few minutes.
All right, thank you, Matt. 6:31 now. The Butte Silver Bow Health Department reconciles some COVID-19 death numbers, added 11. 9 of those happened in November and December, 2 in January. That makes a total of 78 deaths in Silver Bow County. Statewide total for Montana now 1,244 people. Active cases of Gallatin County now stands at 264. There are 7 people in the hospital battling COVID-19 in Gallatin County. Well, during the last Gallatin County Health meeting, a shortage of vaccines across the state expressed repeatedly. But now it seems like that shortage of vaccines has turned into no more vaccines for Gallatin County. MTN's Annie Johnson explains what's happening.
It's not the news you want to hear, especially since so many people are still waiting to get their first dose of the COVID-19 vaccine. But last Friday in the health meeting, Matt Kelly explained the lack of first doses the Gallatin County Health Department has.
But in terms of the amount of vaccine that we're able to acquire to give first doses, we will give it all out. We have some vaccine in the refrigerator that we're going to be using for second doses next week. We have to keep that to be able to give those second doses in the time frame that people are eligible for it.
Now, that was the status as of Friday, and as of Monday, that is still true. A spokesperson for the county told me they usually get information about an upcoming shipment on Tuesdays. Reporting in Gallatin County, Annie Johnson, MTN News.
6:33 now to Silver Bow County. If COVID-19 infection rates drop, so will restrictions on local businesses in Butte. MTN's John Amy tells us the health board is holding a special meeting to reconsider the current restrictions.
The Butte Silver Bow Board of Health will hold a special meeting this week to consider changing the COVID-19 restrictions to businesses. On December 22nd, the board made an emergency rule to increase the COVID-19 restrictions after a spike of cases in the community. This included a 10 p.m. closure time for all bars, restaurants, and casinos, and establishments were held to 50% limit capacity. These restrictions were not popular among many small businesses.
So I can understand what the health department is going through, and also, public safety is first and foremost as well. But also our point is too that we have a controlled environment where we're doing our due diligence, we're safeguarding our public, the patrons, our guests, our staff, our family, and our friends.
However, if conditions improve, the board could extend the closing time to 12:30 a.m. and allow up to 75% capacity. For most bars and casinos, they would appreciate more time to stay open.
I can't imagine what uptown bars are going through. Bulk of their business doesn't start till 9 p.m. It probably goes till like midnight. So they're not able to capture those additional sales.
The health board had planned on making this decision on February 10th, but moved the meeting up after receiving many complaints from small businesses.
We pay our taxes till 2 a.m. Unfortunately, we're all, I think, under the understanding if we can just get a little bit of allowance, maybe possibly 12:30, that would ease a lot of the tension within the community.
The special board meeting will be held remotely Thursday, February 4th at 5:30 in the evening. The public can provide comment by calling 497-5009. In Butte, John Amy, MTN News.
6:35 now. The Montana House giving its endorsement to the bill meant to protect Montana businesses and others against so-called frivolous lawsuits seeking damages related to COVID-19. The bill says anyone suing for damages related to infections from COVID-19 must prove gross negligence, which is a higher standard for a plaintiff in a civil suit. Supporters say the bill is needed to encourage businesses to stay open or reopen without fear of getting sued by those claiming damages from COVID-19 infection. Opponents, most of whom were Democrats, said the bill lets businesses evade responsibility for creating a safe workplace for employees. Republican Governor Greg Gianforte has made the bill one of his top priorities, says he'll lift the statewide mask mandate once that bill becomes law. The bill faces a final vote today before advancing to one last vote before the Senate. Also, Montana lawmakers are hearing emotional testimony on a bill aimed at limiting the cost of insulin for diabetes patients. House Bill 222 is sponsored by Democratic Representative Jessica Karjala of Billings. It would require insurance companies charge patients no more than $35 in copays for a 30-day supply of insulin. Supporters said insulin prices have tripled in recent decades, putting a burden on patients who need it. Those testifying in favor of HB 222 include people whose families cannot get all the insulin they need because of the cost. But the bill did draw opposition from health insurers who argue it will not address the root cause of higher cost, which is the price set by drug manufacturers. The insurers say capping copays would force the companies to pass costs on to other people's premiums.
Sooner or later, someone has to make it clear that it is not okay to make billions of dollars of profits off of persons that have no option but to pay or become blind or disabled or to die.
Why are drug companies raising the cost of life-saving drugs like insulin? Because they can, and they will, and this bill won't stop them from doing that.
Now, the House Human Services Committee has not yet taken action on that bill. Again, HB 222. Also, a judge granting the U.S. Attorney's Office request to transfer two Helena area brothers accused of taking part in the Capitol riot back to Washington, D.C. Joshua and Jared Hughes made their initial appearance in federal court in Great Falls yesterday, were ordered to be detained pending further court proceedings. Prosecutors say the men were among the first 10 rioters to enter the Capitol at that part of the building. They face a total of 9 charges each. Closer to home, Butte police say a 14-year-old boy is the suspect in vandalism at the Veterans Memorial at Stodden Park. Investigators interviewed the boy and he admitted his involvement. The juvenile will be charged with criminal mischief, which is a felony. That felony charge because the damage more than $1,500. A tip from a citizen led to identifying the suspect. Sheriff Ed Lester says it's a great example of the community working with law enforcement to help solve crimes. Well, another week brings more talk of another round of stimulus checks with Democrats poised to act in Washington. But did you ever wonder where that money comes from? Does the government print $1 trillion? Does it come from taxes or is it borrowed? Our Joe St. George reports this morning from Washington, D.C.
This is the U.S. Mint headquarters in Washington, D.C., quite literally the building in charge of printing money. But when it comes to where stimulus and unemployment money comes from, the printing press, or the U.S. Mint, actually isn't involved at all.
But in order for Congress to pass these trillion-dollar laws that eventually results in real money in your wallet, the Treasury Department has to borrow the money.
Unlike you or me, the Treasury Department can borrow as much as they want. They can borrow money from private investors, foreign entities, and other governments. Basically, the Treasury Department issues a bond or a note that is really an IOU, promising to pay back the money with a little bit of interest one day.
But the biggest buyer of these IOUs right now is an entity called the Federal Reserve. They have the power to create money.
But again, they aren't printing anything. Instead, they are simply typing a number into their computer, updating their spreadsheet, and like magic, a digital currency is borrowed by the Treasury Department. All that borrowing gives the Treasury Department the ability to issue those stimulus checks. So, is there a risk to all of this? Well, there is a word that scares economists. The word is inflation. That's when there's too much money in circulation and there aren't enough goods. That's when money becomes nearly worthless, like in some third world countries where pictures like this emerge. Now, economists don't believe we're at risk for that right now, as long as all of this is managed correctly and our economy is still producing more than we are borrowing. And while all of this may sound complicated, that's how you get the stimulus check. In Washington, I'm Joe St. George.
As my mom used to say, clear as mud. 6:40 now. Let's take a quick break. When we come back, are you ready to win a trip to space? Oh, I am. It's real and it happens this year. After the break, we'll tell you how to get on the drawing. But first, here's Gail King with a look ahead to 7 o'clock in CBS This Morning.
Good morning to you. Ahead on CBS This Morning, we've got the latest on the winter storm that is still pummeling the Northeast. Plus, the number of Americans who have now received the COVID vaccine is about the same as those who have actually had the virus. That's not good. As the fight continues, we'll show you the very emotional toll that treating patients is taking on healthcare workers. And Sarah Thomas will become the first woman to ever officiate at a Super Bowl on Sunday. You go, Sarah. Big news. Hear from two other female trailblazers who have transformed America's most popular sport. And first on CBS This Morning, I like when we can say it. I'm going to say it again. First on CBS This Morning, cookbook author, that's Mary McCartney, joins us to discuss her new cooking show and growing up as a vegetarian with her dad. He looks familiar. That's Beatles legend Sir Paul McCartney. We'll see you 7 o'clock on the dot.